Hey Thrivers, today I'm talking about how trauma erases your memories. And I'm talking about your negative, painful memories as well as your positive memories. Okay. And this video is inspired by a comment that was left on underneath my video that I put up yesterday on dissociation, which, by the way, here's the link for that if you haven't seen it yet. Okay. And I haven't done a video response in a long time, but I was reading through the comments yesterday, which by the way, I always read through the comments. I don't always comment, but I always read through them. And when I was reading through this particular comment, I started to write a response and I just thought, this is so important. I need to put up a video response for it. So shout out to the person that left this comment. But basically what she wrote was, so may I ask, is this why we cannot remember most of our life living with narcissistic parents and now living with a covert narcissist? I cannot remember things. It's like I only remember certain things that stand out. The saddest part of that, I cannot remember my children's sweet little things they must have done. So first of all, as a parent, that comment spoke to me so much, and I'm going to share a personal experience with you that hopefully can help you at the end of this video so that you have a tool that can help you to remember those positive memories with your children. Okay, but first I just want to explain. I want to explain that, yes, that's exactly what happens with trauma. When you're undergoing trauma for whatever reason, whether it's with narcissistic parents, whether it's due to alcoholic parents, or any reason at all, if you've had childhood trauma, then what happened was in childhood, you underwent intense emotions that caused you to create limiting and disempowering beliefs that were so painful that your brain is watching. And it's like, that's too much for Michele. You know, I can't have her remember that because it's causing such dysregulation for her emotionally. And it will delete it from your conscious awareness. And what your brain thinks it's doing is it thinks it's helping you. Because in childhood, all you have at your disposal is your child mind. Child mind is emotional. Child mind doesn't have logic. Child mind doesn't have the comprehension that it needs in order to work through and process intense emotions. So you're just stuck with these intense emotions. And so your nervous system kicks on thinking that it's helping you. And that's because you are dependent on the very people that are hurting you. And so that's the only strategy that your brain can come up with to help you to work through it. Okay. I do want to say that as people start to do the inner work to heal, they can get many memories back. I've worked with a lot of people that had no memories of their childhood and no positive memories in their life. But as they start doing the inner work, they learn to get access to that. And what you're basically doing when you're doing the inner work, you are teaching your nervous system that you are now capable of working through those memories, that it doesn't have to stay hidden inside of you, that you have the resources to work through it. And in reference to being with a covert narcissist in the moment and your brain is deleting things, that's part of the trauma bond. Okay, so our brain starts getting set up to delete the bad because it's too painful, but then our attachment, that our need for attachment and bonding, the areas of our brain that are responsible for wanting us and pushing us to bond get activated. And so we're chasing after this person because, especially if you had narcissistic parents, that chasing after love is familiar. And in childhood, that chasing after your parents' love and approval was intertwined with survival. And so in the relationship now, that's what it feels like. It feels like you need them, you're bonding with them. And when I say bonding, okay, what I'm trying to say is at those times on your healing journey where you're trying to make it work, where you're trying to make it peaceful, where you're trying to not get them angry, where you're trying to find the secret formula to, appease and make everyone happy so that life can just be comfortable. If you're at that stage of the recovery where you're still trying, that's the bonding. Your brain is pushing you to bond, okay? And the reason is because it's interlocked with survival. If you didn't work through those old wounds, covert narcissists in adulthood, they open the door to those wounds. even if the wound was dormant for a long time, the door to it can be opened through a relationship. Okay, so your brain is pushing you to bond, to be better, to try harder. And at the same time, it's deleting the bad because it's too painful for you. And that's the trauma bond. That's what happens there. And what happens when you're in that state is exactly what you described, where not only is it deleting the negative, but it hides even these simple little things that are beautiful and meaningful, especially to a mom, to a parent. And that's the things that our children do. So I say this when in the Thriver School of Transformation, we have breathwork sessions on Sundays. And one of the things I say in my intro talk before we do the breathwork is, to the degree that we suppress negative is the degree that our brain causes us to suppress the positive as well. So learning how to work through what is being suppressed is part of the journey. Okay. That being said, just to throw out some things that people find helpful when it comes to working through these suppressed memories, these suppressed emotions, and the suppressed trauma, some of the modalities that help are somatic integration and processing, EMDR, breathwork, and TRE, which is traumatic release exercises, which has to do with shaking. Okay, these are somatic modalities. I'm not saying that each one is for everyone. Everyone has to kind of find the somatic modality that works for them. But in order to work through trauma, you need the cognitive, you need the understanding, but you need a somatic modality to release trauma from the body. In the School of Transformation, the somatic modality that we utilize is a certain type of breath work that the theory behind it is that by breathing a certain way, it turns the volume down of your default mode network. Your default mode network acts as a restraint on your limbic region, or your limbic network, which is your alarm system, which is where trauma is stored in the brain. And when that restriction is lifted, it allows us to have access to unprocessed and suppressed memories. And by allowing them to come up, we're able to add connections, add information that helps us to process and release it. So what I mean by that is, when it's stored in the limbic network, it's almost like it's transported there with no roads. Okay, so for example, what I mean by that, we have millions of neural pathways in the brain, right? And think of a neural pathway as a road or a highway, and they're all connected together, and you can travel down different routes depending on where you want to go, or depending on how you want to feel and how you want to think, okay? And depending on what you want to remember. Millions of roads in our mind. But when we undergo trauma, the brain does something interesting. It's like it picks a route that kind of transports that memory and puts it in the limbic network with no road connecting to it. And so we can't get there with words. That's why the somatic modalities are so important when you're working through trauma. Okay. That being said, I encourage you, if you want to check out our breathwork sessions, you can try the school for 7 days for free. Our next breathwork session is on the 12th, Sunday the 12th at 4 p.m. Eastern. So if you want to come and try it, you're welcome to do that. I'll leave the link here for you to do that. So here's my personal experience. This is directly for you, Ella, okay? I remember when I couldn't remember the little things like that, the beautiful, precious little things that mean so much to a parent. And when I was on my road to recovery, I was doing limbic region exercises. I was really doing a lot of work on brain regulation, because narcissistic abuse, childhood trauma, dysregulates the brain. And we really have to get our brain on board with our journey. One of the exercises was to write down your favorite memory and to bring it up in your body. And let me tell you, I was in tears that night. I was in tears because I was like, I don't have one positive memory. I don't have any. That's what I thought. And I was literally in tears. But that wasn't the truth. It wasn't that I didn't have any positive memories. It was that the neural pathway, or the road that led to those thoughts, those positive memories, hadn't been traveled in so long because of the stress. When your brain is under stress and you're constantly in fight or flight, your brain is so aware of danger that all the good things, it's not paying attention. Doesn't mean that they're not there in your brain. It just means that your brain's like, oh yeah, that's pretty, but danger, danger, danger. And it's always looking for danger. It's like you have this nice event and you're like, oh yeah, whatever, danger, danger. That's what the brain is doing, but the memories are there. And so going back to my memory, I couldn't remember anything. I was in tears. I thought, oh my God, I have no good memories. That wasn't true. It felt true at that moment, but I had to retrain my brain. I had to carve new pathways to get to those memories that I had. So I picked one. I picked one memory, and it was like the anchor that started to help me to carve those new neural pathways towards healing, towards safety, towards the positive, and let those other pathways atrophy. And I'm going to share that positive memory with you. It's such a tiny thing, but to me, it was what started helping me. So the memory was my daughter, who is 19 years old right now. She was about 2 or 3 months old, maybe 3 months. And I brought her over to a friend's house. They hadn't seen her. And there was about 10 or 15 people. And she was in her little car seat. You know, you carry it from the car, and she's flailing her legs. So she's like going back and forth on her car seat, and she's looking up, and everyone's looking down at her. And I could see that she was scared. And I can only imagine, like, she's looking up, they probably look 20 feet tall to her, right? So we're all standing there looking down at her. And I see her expression is just kind of blank, but with fear. Like I could see that she was scared and a little nervous, not like overly fearful, but just a little uncomfortable. And then her eyes found me in the crowd. And my friend noticed her expression change, and she followed her gaze. She followed her to me, and she said, wow, look at the expression on her face when her eyes find her mom in the crowd. And honestly, it was the most beautiful expression. I felt like Superwoman. Like she looked at me like I was amazing. And that love that I could see in her, that love was so beautiful. So that was the memory I picked. When I first started to think about that memory, it was more like a logical equation. This happened, that happened, and there was no emotional response. And that's part of recovery. That's what happens. You don't have that emotion. It's like you're carving your path. It's like when you're going sledding. My kids always make fun of me when I say sleigh riding. Okay, sledding. When you go sledding, that first time you're carving the path, you're going slow. The next time you go down that sled, you're going a little bit faster. Now, when that trail has been traveled a lot, then you're flying. Well, that's what happened. I brought it up, didn't feel much. I did it again and again until finally, when I could bring that memory up, it could bring me to tears, not sad tears, but it could make my eyes water because I could feel that moment where I felt that love in her gaze. I could feel it in my body. That's training yourself to taste the positive, to allow yourself to see it. When you do that, that's the beginning of rewiring and teaching your brain to notice those things. Once I did that, and there were a few other things that for the sake of this video, I'm not going to overwhelm it with time, but that's one place that you can start. But what happened was, as time went on, and as I taught my nervous system that I am safe, and that even the painful and fearful memories that I had from the past, that I could process them, that I knew how to show up for myself and help myself through it now, the body armor starts to go. And what I mean by that is all the walls that are there in your mind to suppress start breaking down, and you begin to have access again to the positive. And it is so beautiful and so empowering. It doesn't erase the negative, but you balance it out, because with narcissistic abuse, it trains you to only see the negative, to only have the bad memories. And all the good memories are so sandwiched in between the stress and the abuse that your brain's not noticing the positive, but you can teach it. And it really does change your life. So I hope this helps you. And for anyone that is working through this process of rewiring the brain, of learning how to train your nervous system, of getting back to you so that you're your real self instead of who the trauma turned you into. And if you're struggling, then make sure you check out the Thriver School of Transformation. This is what we do. We do it together. We have exercises that we do together. We talk about it together and we support each other along the way. Now, the doors to enrollment are closing the 31st of December for 3 months. So if you want to join us, make sure you do that now or pop in a few months and come check us out.